And the VSCCA runs Equinox every year
Right.
as a hill climb.
Yep.
So
Nice.
guys got to get up there and do it.
Sounds fun.
Oh, it is.
Sounds fun. So Dave, thanks for your question. Unfortunately, Dave's had an issue with his BJ8 and his heater core, and he's looking for what's the best way to access the heater core to replace that. Any other things, Dave, you want to add to that?
Well, what happened was, fellas, we ran a run at what we call a Algonquin Park run with the local Boot and Bonnet Club. And we had just started off. We had driven about 80 miles to get to the start point to head with the rest of a dozen or so cars heading up into the park. So on one of the highways, I'm going along and I'm thinking, oh, dear Lord, my kidneys have failed or my bladder is lost because I'm feeling warmness running down my right leg. And I'm in a set of flip-flops and a pair of shorts. And I'm going, this is not pleasant. But we had the heat turned right off because it was quite warm, quite nice. So discovering that it was water and water weather running down my leg, I went, oh geez, put the four ways on, pulled over real quickly, and then at that, as I went over a little bit to the right, you might say, now Pam is saying, oh my God, there's water running here now. So I jumped out, popped the hood, turned off the tap, end of the water issue, and we carried on with the trip. So every once in a while, I'd have a look and reach underneath and see where is this wonderful hidden device. So I got a hold of Bob Hewell and I said, Bobby, or I said to Amanda, I said, what am I in for here? And Bob correctly said, you're going to need 3 elbows and extra arms, and we can give you a luck, but we can't loan you an elbow. It is absolutely, it's quite entertaining. So if I may, you got to, well, here's what you're in for. Oops. Now, there you go. You can see me?
Yep.
Okay, live presentation here. There's everything there out of the car.
You got the interior out.
Oh, yeah. So if you come over here, and as you can see, there's not much in there.
Okay, yeah.
And where you're going, of course, is way up underneath in here. So I found the best way was to lay on my back with my feet hanging out the back of the seats, and that way then I could access all the necessary screws and bolts, hoses, etc., etc. When it came time for the hoses, the best way for them was to cut them off.
What's going on?
So what it comes down to is, there it is.
So you got it out.
Yep. So what you have is your fresh air comes in here. When you close your 2 doors, one at the passenger and at the driver's feet, that forces the air out these little tubes here that happen to go up to the demister, the demistol, right? I mean, you might get something up there to clean the windshield off. And the whole thing is controlled, on the slide on the dash, you slide it from full to low heat, and then you have vents. Is this device. And this is the water, we'll call it the water regulator, and I've got tape over it, but it fits quite nicely in here and bolts down. The rad hose comes out of the block, goes to here, and then it exits here and goes back through the firewall to the engine and gets recirculated through. So, and the rad is in here.
Yeah.
Probably can't see that, but it's all very nice. Yeah. So the best part is, if you put duct tape over said piece here, and then as maybe in high school, you said, put your lips on this. So basically you put your lips on here, and in one position, I mean, you'd pop a gasket. In the other fully position here, a little bit of air. Put it in the middle. and it's blowing air out of here. So in other words, whatever's in here has failed. So of course you got warm water coming in here.
Yep.
You've got it turned off, but unfortunately it's pouring out all over here on top of the heater box and whatever. So the question was, how do you get it out? Well, Bob was right. Pam had to stand over me and offer guidance and get all the appropriate tools to do it while I was down there. Because once you get in, you don't really want to have to get back out. I mean, it's just absolute. And you know, at 70 years of age, you're in there and you're like this, and you know, it's a lot of fun. So I've ordered, yes, Bob, I've ordered one of these, and what else? And that's about it. Other than the hose, does the hose come pre-bent, or do you just buy 1/2-inch ID heater hose and go to put the gambit to that?
Yes.
Well, originally the hoses were pre-formed, but 90% of them have been replaced with just straight heater hose, and it works quite satisfactorily.
Yeah.
You just have to remember which one goes where. They do actually cross over on top of the heater.
Yeah, which is really strange, eh? Like the hot coming out of the block comes up, goes through the firewall, goes across the top of the entire unit into said tap, and then of course it gets circulated through the rad and then comes out of the unit again, out of the rad, and heads back through the firewall to the engine, but on the driver's side. So yeah, it is most entertaining.
If you're replacing that heater tap, then you really should replace the O-ring that's underneath it.
It's in the email to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but today
Is that a stock item, Bob? You carry those in stock?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But the O-ring that is under the old heater tap will be in a much different shape to the O-ring that you get in the mail. After it's been in there for 20 odd years, it tends to adopt a different shape.
And
Yep, and
is
it's
it the same unit through all the range of the big Heelys, Bob?
Yeah.
Do they're all the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
As you can see by the O-ring there, you can see it's flattened right out, of course, eh?
Yeah.
Because that's where the unit actually sits right on there.
Well, that's good. Obviously, you were smart enough to get out of the car and turn off the tap, so you wasn't coming all over Pam's
Bob, is
legs any
there,
longer.
Yeah, and we were quite pleased to find out there's nothing wrong with my bladder.
I'm sorry,
Is
Steve, were you
there
gonna say
any
something?
way to test it before you go through the trouble of putting it back in? Because if the O-ring doesn't seal, you're
Yeah,
not going to know until it's totally rebuilt.
yeah. I think what I'll do is I'll probably attach said hoses that I've taken off the car and put them, like once it's all established, I'll do that, and then I'll plug one end, and then I'll probably put the garden hose, and I don't know how much pressure I should or I shouldn't apply, but what I'll do is I'll put it in and make sure that the tap does in fact shut it off or turn it back on, and then I'll plug both ends, or the return, we'll call it, and I'll apply pressure and see if it does hold.
Bob, have you had any issues with those reproduction, those taps? They've been pretty reliable?
No, they've been pretty good actually. We've had no problems with them.
Okay.
When we do this, we usually hang the heater on the two top bolts that hold it in, hook up the hoses, and then run the car and see if it leaks that way.
Recording in progress.
Ah,
Another idea, Dave. Oh, sorry. Another idea. If you want to to get more, and I did it to my car, if you want to get more fan power, a 3-inch or 4-inch boat, it's not a bilge pump, but it's a boat fan that circulates the air. You can buy it at any marine store. It's like $20. West Marine has them. Dave, if you hold up your unit, heating unit.
Are you looking at the valves
It
for the
fits
valve,
right
Steve, or
inside.
the-
It actually fits right inside the tube, the flex tube. That this air.
Steve, you keep breaking up. Maybe turn your video off, Steve. Maybe your bandwidth isn't proper.
Little torpedo, and and it doesn't show, and it adds a lot more volume for the heater and the demister. So you could go on West Marine and you could see it, and it worked great for me.
Okay.
I know, Steve, exactly what you mean, because I've got a blower in the boat, because any boat that has an inboard or an inboard outboard engine, you gotta exhaust the fumes before you know, or else go boom if there's any gas in the bilge, eh? So you turn on the blower for so many moments prior to hitting the ignition key. And you're right, they do move a significant amount of air.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
cheap.
Steve, you keep breaking up. Steve, I'd recommend taking your video off. You've got a bandwidth issue. I think that would help. So, Bob Abbott, any other recommendations you have regarding what's Dave's experiencing?
No, I think Dave's got it pretty well covered.
Great. Okay. Well, that's good. Dave, anything else?
Nope, that was it. Bob was right. I've got old man marks, you know, when you get older and you bang yourself, and I got lots of those. I didn't teach Pam any new words this time, but if the grandkids had been here, they would have heard a few.
Understand.
If you are going to pressurize this with the garden hose, don't forget that the system only runs on about 7 psi.
Okay. Okay.
You just want to trickle there, huh? Or a little more?
Well, yeah, you don't want to put a full blast garden hose on it and shut the tap, because you could run into problems.
Right.
Is there inside the tap assembly? Is it a rubber sort of flapper, or what? Like, without, you can't really tell by looking at it unless I took it all apart. But
no, it's a rubber diaphragm.
Okay. Yeah. So in the on position, I mean, the bottom line is, with it plugged here, sealed with this duct tape, no matter where the thing is positioned, you should never be able to pass air, should you?
No.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been known to pass a little air.
Well, I'm just glad you weren't doing that while you were the starter for the valve cover races, Dave, at Summit.
Yes, sir. Indeed.
And I think that's TMI.
That's right, it is. You got that right. So, Ken, you had some questions regarding the Moss fuel gauges.
Well,
Is this for your 100, I assume?
yes. It's not that I have a question, but I discussed this with our friend up in Canada. But what happened was I needed a new fuel gauge for my 100. And I tried to, well, what it was doing, it was shorting out because the cork insulation was all shot. Tried to rebuild it. Long story short, Moss had one. I get it here. and it doesn't work. So a friend of mine and I, we took a separate fuel sending unit and we used it as a potentiometer. And lo and behold, it worked strictly as a negative ground unit. So I got in touch with Moss, and I like to talk to this one gentleman, Dave, who's a salesman there, and he is a Healey owner. So he dug into it really deep for me, and sure enough, in the description, doesn't it say negative ground cars only?
Oh.
Which is different from what Michael Salter and I were talking about, because you don't know if you change your Healey from positive ground to negative, you don't even have to worry about your fuel gauge. But these fuel gauges that Moss has are manufactured in India. And
Right.
for some reason, they're coming through as working on negative ground only. So I just wanted to, let people be aware of that. So
Bob,
Here.
any parts you get from a head for Healey's, do they have both positive and negative ground gauges?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Hey, Peter, I bought from AH Bears, and I have a positive ground 100,
Yep.
and it works great.
And
Well,
you just
that's-
installed that in the past month or two, Ted, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
the needle is very steady. It's I think particularly accurate when the gas gets slower, but I've had no problems with it.
So is this the sending unit or the gauge in the dash?
Oh, the sending unit.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, my situation was the actual gauge. And yes, I ended up getting mine from AH Spares. And that's the first thing I bought from them in probably over a decade. And they were just phenomenally outstanding, friendly, knowledgeable.
Did they
Healey
remember you,
problem.
Ken?
Pardon?
Did they remember you?
No, because that was decades ago. So, but it turns out I found two more used gauges, and one of them worked and one of them didn't. And they wanted to buy my other gauge, and it was going to cost me more to ship it than it was, more than what they were willing to pay me for it. But yet
Right.
their core charge on the one that I bought from them was twice what I paid for the gauge. So go figure.
So these were used gauges you found, Ken?
Yes,
Gotcha. And one
Yeah.
worked and one didn't.
correct. So if I still have the podium, what I will do is I will offer that non-working one. It's physically in great shape, free of charge for anybody who would like it. I'm going to keep my other one for a spare. And as I gave to you in my email, I have some other things that people might want, and they're free of charge as long as you come get them. I have a right-hand drive 6-cylinder dash with a cutout for a radio. That's free of charge. I have a set of BN1 curved one-piece plexiglass side curtains with the original bag. The bag is in pretty bad shape. But
John
that.
Engel down there in the bottom with his 53 BN1. He's raising his head. John, when you want to come off mute?
Yeah,
There
they
you
were
go, John.
pretty much laughing at my side curtains this weekend at the car show. They said you gotta get side curtains that you can actually see through, John. And so I thought that might be a good idea.
Where do you live, John?
Connecticut.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
Ken's just over the border in New York, up near Vermont.
I'm in the southwest corner of Connecticut, New Canaan.
Oh, well, I'm basically where Vermont, New York, and Massachusetts come together. So
So what condition are they in, Ken?
The frames are in good shape. The curvature, well, they're not crystal clear, but they're not cracked or broken. And my phone number is 518-423-7565.
Great to meet you.
So I'll even meet you halfway, and you can buy me a beer and you can have the side curtains.
That's a hell of a deal.
And I do believe that they may have come off of one of Bill Wood's 100S's, if that's what they used, you know, when they had to put a top on it.
But 100S's they didn't have a full windscreen.
Correct. But these did come from Bill.
Can we
Okay.
talk about, I'm a newbie, so can we just talk about windscreens? So in 53, and my build date was December 14, 53. And I'm told that they started out with single panel, and then they decided they needed the lower flap. So it's mine is a very yellowed with a flap, and then there's maybe a third version. Is that right?
Well, my understanding, and I can be corrected, is that the very early 100s had a one-piece curved plexiglass unit, and the frame was just the front and the bottom. So,
okay, front and bottom frame only,
right.
and solid plexi, and therefore you can't reach through it to open up your door.
Correct. Yep.
And that's what you have, is that earliest one.
Yes, sir. That is correct. And you're more than welcome to them. Did you get my phone number?
I did. And there was, I think, Jeff Healy, the guy up in, is he Oregon, who I sent him a picture of mine, and he said, oh yeah, those are later with the flap. And they might have been much later. But so I have the ones with the flap, and they're in terrible shape. So I would look forward to. I actually needed it because I drove upstate New York and it rained the whole time, and and this past weekend to the car show, I needed my side curtains to drive it in the rain, and I really could not see out either side.
Okay. Well, please call
that's
me
not a
after.
good way to drive. Yeah.
No.
So I've got a 5400 160880, and it has the side curtains with the flaps.
Mine is 1499.14.
Okay.
So please call me after we're done here, and we'll make some arrangements.
Great, thank you.
The other thing I have that I believe is a BN1, and again, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the front parking lights were different on the very early BN1s. The lens was actually much smaller than on the later BN2s. And I've got a set of 4 of those that if anybody wants them, they can have them.
So this is just the glass you're talking about, Ken? Or
It's the glass, it's the lens and the chrome ring.
Wow.
And I did have an early BN1 at one time, and it had these smaller lenses on it. So
I wasn't anyone else on the call aware of that for early BN1s with a smaller turn indicator signals? I wasn't aware of that, Ken. That's
okay.
or John Engel, what do you have on yours? Do you happen to know on you're on mute again, John?
I'm trying to find a picture. I'm not imagining what it is you're describing. You're saying
You're talking about the turn indicators, right?
Yes. So
yeah, because I mean yours is a pretty early car, John, in the 53.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now, I don't know who's into wall art, but I got from Bill Wood, 515 tire mounted on a wire wheel, but it says Dunlop Racing on it. And I would bet my life that it came off of one of his old 100Ss.
Wow.
And I don't have any room for any more wall art, but it says just Dunlop Racing on it. That's it.
Wow.
And I know the early Healey's came with RS4s and then RS5s. So
this is the wire wheel in an original tire, you think?
yes, I believe it is.
Wow.
Yep. So
Is this the lens that you're talking about?
Yes. So down, so below the headlights, John.
Does yours look like that one?
no, they're much small. The lens is much smaller and the chrome ring is much wider.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't remember that. Anyone else on there? Bob Yule, Bob Abbott, Ken Beck?
No,
That sound familiar to anybody?
By the way, you can see how bad my curtains are.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nice looking car. What is it? A blue top you got on that, John?
Yeah, it's a blue top, blue interior. It's one of the ones that was painted Coronation Cream for that
Okay,
one
nice.
month. Although they busted my one Healey expert at the show said that is a wives' tale, that Coronation Cream is really extra paint left over from the war that Healey got on sale. So it's just khaki paint from the government, and they passed it off as Coronation Cream as a way to market the car, I guess. Anybody heard that? Anybody actually heard whether or not the Coronation Cream story is true?
Well, last year at Enclave in Gettysburg, we had a Coronation Cream 100 there. So Steve Jacogian, do you happen to know about that? Because, I think you were the one that helped get that car there. Do you know any story about the Coronet Cream color?
I never heard the story of leftover paint from the war, which we 10-year-old paint, which I'm not sure would have been viable.
Right.
I did hear from Joe Costa, whose car was original, but it was painted for the coronation.
Good. That's what I'm going to go with that story then too.
It's a very rare car you have, John.
Thank you.
No, it's a, rare color, and 53 is an early car.
So I bought it a year ago from the second owner, an 80-year-old man in Santa Barbara.
Wow.
And he's had it, I think, since '63. So I have the original 1954 California registration of it being registered to Colgate Avenue, to a CC Legrand on Colgate Avenue in '54, and then Legrand's same guy, his '63 registration, and then it went to Johnson, Eugene Johnson in Santa Barbara, and then it went to me.
So does it have a black plate?
Yes, so I got a black '63 plate on it, and I've left it on.
Cool. That's great.
I dare them to stop me.
So Ken, other things you have in your treasure trove of Healey parts there?
Right. So, and anyways, that Dunlop racing tire, if somebody would like that as a wall hanger. I also have an original Dunlop RS5 mounted on an original wire wheel. You can have that. And then the last thing is a question. Oh, don't forget, if somebody needs a gauge, a 100 gauge to rebuild, that's also free. When I helped Elizabeth clean out Bill Wood's attic, I came across what, I'm not sure about this, what I believe may be a 100S valve cover. And is there anybody on the call that knows what a 100S valve cover might look like? It's the same dimensions, but it's got two protruding bulges on one side, and the breather tube is L-shaped. It comes out and then it takes a 90-degree turn straight up. But it is definitely Healy.
And is it darker green?
It's silver and green.
Oh. Okay, well, could have been repainted and stuff.
Yeah, but this came out of Bill Wood's collection.
I would think that'd be something you could research on
Yeah,
100S.
well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, or you want to send me a picture of that? I can check with Bill Rawls in the UK, who's he's done a couple recreation 100S's.
Okay,
He would probably know.
all right. That if it turns out to be 100S, I would sell that on behalf of Elizabeth Wood.
Nice.
So, and that's all that this blabber's got for the night.
No, that's
Thank you,
good.
folks.
I'll reach out to you afterwards, Ken. That sounds really good.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Carl J, any luck finding your side glass for your BJ7? Carl, you're on mute. Carl, unfortunately, down at Summit, his driver's side window shattered.
During the rally. Yes, I did. I ordered a new one through Moss. I got a Flex Pilkington glass and the channels. And it's actually, I found a shop in Raynham that does it, and it's there right now. So
good.
Yeah, he had done an MGB windshield for me 5 or 6 years ago. So
okay, nice.
So hopefully that's fixed this week.
Great. Okay. In the chat, Andy Roberts has a question regarding replacing the oil seal where the dry shaft enters into the rear axle on a BJ8. Any recommendations for folks as it relates to that? Andy, anything else you want to add? Andy, you're on mute. You may even be away from the computer. Any people have any recommendations on replacing that seal? Has anyone replaced that seal before? Okay.
It doesn't work.
The rear seal doesn't work, Bob? Don't bother.
I've replaced it twice and it still drips a little. Probably not as much as if it wasn't there, but.
Gotcha. Okay. Chris Morse, you said you have a cautionary tale.
I mean, I mean, in theory it should work, but something. It's probably because it's a split seal.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, something you want to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just installed. I've got a BJ8 67, and I just installed one of those high torque starters. And I believe it's a Wasp. Great move, love it. Except that after I installed it, I could not get the socket off of one of the bolts because there's a bulge in the starter by the flange.
Okay.
Has anyone else run into this?
Wow. So this is a high torque starter on a BJ8, and
Right.
it's the upper bolt you can't get off.
The upper bolt. I had put the socket and the extension on when the bolt was loose and a little bit wiggly.
Yeah.
And when it went on and got straight, I could take everything off except the socket because the socket would bang into the bulge on the starter. I ended up having to take it off and grind the socket down into a cone.
Wow.
In order to extract it.
You know,
Now,
I see you got the socket in your hand.
Oh yeah, I'm
so
not
you
losing
solved the
this.
problem.
Yeah, exactly. If anybody needs to install one of these Wasp starters, I'll mail you this. No problem. I think I'm done for a while with it. But the other thing is, in order to put that starter in, I had to take the oil filter assembly off. So I did an oil change, and I thought, while I have this off, I think I'll go to one of these spin-on oil filters and get the adapter from Moss. Now, has anybody else got one of these?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I think probably a number of people on here don't, they've dealt with those canisters too long and they've gone to spin-on oil filters.
Right, right. So I put this on, and I've got the oil in the car, everything's fine, and I go to start it up, and it sounds like a hammer having a fight in a bucket.
Uh-oh.
And I shut it off. I go, what the hell was that? And I tried it again, same thing, and it turns out I had no oil pressure at all.
Really?
When I bought this unit from Moss, this is what they sent me for a filter.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I've used a Wix before. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you use the Wix 51516 or the 51516?
Sorry, Chris, I don't recall. I've been
Yeah.
using K&N ever since, but
yeah, the
I
problem
have
is
used a Wix before.
Yeah, problem is, I guess I found out that I tried another oil filter, same thing happened. But the oil from my BJ8 goes in the center hole.
Okay.
It comes out the little holes. There's a flapper flange around here on the tapping plate, which does not allow the oil to come out.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if anybody else has run into this, but that's the filter that Moss recommends. Although when you go down and you drill down on the filter page and go to fitment, it will say that it only goes to, I don't know, a couple MGs and a couple Triumphs. It doesn't mention Healy at all.
Wow. Anyone else experienced what Chris did? Bob Ewell, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I would say that you've got the adapter on upside down.
Well, I thought about that too, but I can't imagine it as when I put it on, I made sure that the holes went through into the block so that everything was clear. And I also had another mechanic, English Auto, Doug Latham, look at it, and he says, you put it on right. But when we reassembled it, when we put the canister filter back on, worked great. And he says, I don't see, he says, you really can't put it on upside down.
Yes, you can.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And upside down is the logical way to put it on. When it's on the correct way up, it looks as if it's half on and half off of the flat surface. And on one corner of the adapter, there should be a chamfer where it runs up against the oil gallery in the block.
Really? Because it certainly seemed like it was on correctly.
If it seems like it's on correctly, then it's upside down.
That's typical, isn't it?
It should seem like it's on incorrectly.
But still, the oil comes into the center hole the way I have it. It doesn't if it's on the other way.
The oil should come in on the outside holes and go out of the center.
Right. But for some reason, the way I put it on, it reverses it.
Yeah, because you've got the wrong hole lined up, and it won't come out of the center hole.
Jesus, because it's got. I have to look at the damn thing again, but it seems to me there were two holes on either side of the center hole.
Hopefully, you didn't do any damage, Chris.
Yeah, I didn't run for long.
Good.
It seems to run fine now. Now I've got a generator problem. I have to have the generator rebuilt.
Yeah,
it's always something.
So you're back to the canister filter.
Yeah. I figured, well, what the hell, that works.
Yeah. Well, the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But
yeah, but it was funny because Doug had a guy come in with a Healy into the shop, but he had a 15156 XL. And I didn't know whether there was a difference in it, whether there was some kind of reverse flow or some weird thing. But
let me check my contacts. I think I saved it in my contacts what I was using. A 51068 is what I was using on a Wix filter.
I know.
Let me check again. That was on it.
Well, next time I get a little ambitious, maybe I'll try putting that thing on in the reverse and see how that works. At first, I thought maybe I put it on with the wrong sealant and got some of that the silicone inside, like and given the engine a bit of a silicone embolism in some of the galleries. But we figured now it was the filter.
So I got a Wix cross reference of a 51516 with a K&N 2009 or a Fram PH 3614.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well,
you know,
showing cross references.
Bob's got to be right, because it looked as if it was on correctly, and I did have I did. So if I can put it on so it looks bad, then
Right.
I'm all set. Jesus.
Yep.
Peter?
Yep.
I'd like to interject here. I think I've mentioned this before, but I strongly recommend not to use any Fram filter unless it's a racing filter.
I've heard that.
They just are not the quality that a Wix filter is. They used to be at one time, but no more.
Good to know.
Yeah, we found that the Fram filters are pretty poor, and that the Wix is the sort of Cadillac of filters.
Better than K&N?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'll give that a shot next time I do an oil, and we'll see what happens. But I know Doug recommends that I use what is it, Indian Head gasket sealer.
Not familiar with that.
Rather than the silicone.
Peter, yeah, I'm looking.
Hey, Bruce.
Hi, I'm looking at my Wix filter here and on the engine, and if you look at where it mounts, there's the flat's exposed, and like half the hole is exposed in the upper right hand side. And I know when I ran in the engine, I got good oil pressure, so it must be working.
Can you read what Wix filter you have on there, Bruce?
Let's see.
We're making you work hard. Dave gave us a garage tour. Now Bruce is giving us a garage tour. You're on mute, Bruce.
Yes, I'm giving you the garage tour here. See, there's my.
Yep.
Yeah.
So was that a 51516?
WL. Looks like that.
I use a 51516 on the Wix on my cars. That's the correct one.
Yeah.
Right. Did you get your car back, Bob?
I did.
Good.
Picked it up last Thursday.
Did it make the journey fine without unscathed?
No problem. I just had a dead battery when we got to the port. They just jumped it and put some gas in it, and 5 hours later I was home.
Did customs wash your clothes for you too?
I think they opened the car up and quickly closed it when they saw all the dirty clothes.
Well, it's great you got the car back finally.
Yeah, it's good.
Good.
It took 3 months.
My filter is a WL7168. I believe I got it from AH Spares along with some other stuff.
Okay. Thanks, Bruce. Jim Constantine, are you on? I don't see you. Are you said you had a question, but I don't see you on here. So other questions or comments that folks have? Carl? You're on mute, Carl.
Hi, Peter. I've got a slight leak at my steering box, at the seal. And I was wondering if, there's any recommendation for that heavier, grease. Is that something that's actually practical?
What was it, Bob? Right? Cornhead grease or something you use, Bob?
Yes,
that's what.
Yeah, it's made by John Deere Tractor, or that's who has the Cornhead grease. Comes in a cartridge, and I
swap that out regularly for people that have a bad gearbox leak problem. I've done it a number of times, any number of times, often.
Okay. Bob, you were going to say the same thing?
Yeah, we use it all the time.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Great.
How much of a leak is a bad leak?
Carl, how bad's the leak?
I told Rich I had about from coming back from Mystic, I had probably a tablespoon of oil out.
Oh.
That's
not a bad leak. That's a good leak.
I just wondered if, but it's way, it's down. When I checked the level, it's down. So I didn't know if it would make sense to go with the, Rich was talking about the 90 weight oil or the Cornhead grease or this other, Penrite steering box oil.
Okay. Well, sounds like two of the experts recommend the Cornhead grease.
Yeah, because it looks like I have a leaky seal. So if this will help prevent that, maybe that's the way to go.
Yep. Okay.
Question.
Great.
Please.
Question with the Cornhead grease. How much should you put in?
Bob Abbott, how much Cornhead grease do you put in?
Well, I've opened up the bottom of the box and I think it's pretty empty. I put about it comes in a tube and you use it with your grease gun. So I have a long needle nipple on the end of my grease gun, and I put about 30 pumps in.
Wow. So it takes quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, my steering is a bear to turn right now unless I'm moving. And I do have the grease, yeah. Can I dilute the grease a little bit with some oil?
Well, you're never going to get all the oil out of your box when you try to drain it down. So there's going to be some oil left in there for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Would
Bill.
Bob and Bob recommend putting that corn grease in, even if you're not leaking? Will it tighten up the steering at all, or
No,
No,
no?
no, well, it's not that heavy.
Oh,
It's
okay.
heavy enough that it doesn't leak, but it's not gonna create a fix for a sloppy box.
I think
Okay.
the oil in my box has been in there for 32 years.
Well, that's because there's none in there.
It leaked out.
It doesn't leak.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's not leaking, it's probably empty.
Right. Thanks, Kenny. Okay. Other questions this evening?
I had a quick question about a wiring. I'm working on my BJ7 and the horns on the BJ7 mount on those vertical pillars that attach to the body, and the main wiring harness appears to have wires coming out where the older Healey's, the older 3000s had them mounted in the front. And I was wondering, were there like wires that ran from the front back to those horns, or how does the wiring go? Because there's nothing coming out of the main wiring harness to hook up to where the horns are.
So Bruce, where'd you get your wiring harness?
I got it from AH Spares.
Okay. And was it specifically for a BJ7 or just for a big Healey?
It was for BJ7, yeah.
Okay, well.
But I think it was also for earlier ones, maybe BT7 as well. I'm not sure if it was for both.
Bob, you got something?
yeah, generally in the wiring kit, if you get the complete kit, there are two wires about 18 inches long with a brown wire and a black wire.
Uh-huh.
And they go from the front back up to the horns.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's what I must be missing those. So that's what the problem is. Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. Dave Baru and Dave's good BJ8. So you're questioning regarding a gasket on that steering box? Is there a gasket or seal that can be replaced on the steering box? And anyone have any knowledge of that? You know, Bob Abbott, is there a gasket to be replaced on the steering box?
I don't remember.
Okay.
There must be some sort of a seal there, but they wear out very quickly, and I found that just using grease in there cures the problem.
Okay.
Don't they usually leak where the stator tube goes through it? No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. Not the steering box.
They leak where
Well,
the
that
pitman-
usually has a little copper nut.
Yeah, there's a seal on the bottom where the pitman shaft comes out. And if the casting itself wears a little bit, even if you replace the seal, the load when you turn the wheel shoves the pitman arm, the shaft, side to side, and it lets a little bit of oil leak out of the seal, even if you just replace the seal, because the casting itself wears.
Okay.
Does anybody believe that? I think that's true.
Thanks,
And
Ken.
that's why we use the Cornhead grease also. And as I say, if the oil leaks out, then you just put that in and go along.
Well, 3 endorsements for Cornhead grease. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, we took the filler plug out of a steering box and drilled it and tapped it and put a grease fitting in it.
Oh.
We just take the fitting out of the box that we're filling, screw this in, pump it full of grease, and then swap the filling over again. The fitting.
Okay.
Over.
That sounds good. Any other questions?
No, but I'll toot my horn here. Peter.
Please.
I did finish my wiring harness. It's all done. Everything's working properly.
Nice.
And where I'm going to toot my whistle is in the current issue of Hemming's classic car. My Healy is in there in garage time.
Oh, great.
So if you get classic car from Hemming's, Ken is in there.
Congrats.
Yeah, I only live 20 miles from Hemming's, and all of the editors are friends of mine. I've had about 5 cars in there, so
nice.
I'm infamous.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions,
Can I
please?
just about
Sure,
US,
go ahead, Bob.
Can I say something about U.S. Customs?
Certainly.
We were heading down to Southeast Classic, 4 of us, and we were crossing the border at the Rainbow Bridge at Niagara Falls. And of course, it was lined up from one end to the other, and it was hot. And one of the cars overheated and quit in the lineup.
Yeah.
So the driver was pushing it along a foot at a time, as you do. And before the bridge opened up to go to the booths, 3 customs officers walked out, told him to get in the car, and they pushed him through.
Really?
They took him to one of the closed booths, processed him, and then pushed him through into the shade where he could fix it.
Wow.
So we determined that the next time we get in the lineup, we're just going to pop the hood and wait for somebody to come get it.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. That's a great story, Bob. Thank you.
That was unexpected, but very good.
Yeah, I guess.
Speaking of overheating, I was thinking of going to a 6-blade fan for that Texas Cool fan. Anybody got any opinions on that?
You said you get a BJ8, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using a 6-bladed fan, a plastic one. I'm not sure it's not a Texas Cooler, I don't think, but I've had good results with it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you all for your engagement and participation tonight. I think it was good. Again, we post this on our website. So if you need to go back and search anything, we have it there on the members only section on the website. So next month will be on the November 13th is the second Monday of the month. So it's again, if you have any questions in advance, feel free to send those to me and we'll make sure to get those addressed on the 13th. So thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Good night.
Peter.
Thanks, Peter. Bye-bye.
Thank you.